You lost, if I recall correctly, the vast majority of your family.
Not the vast majority, every member of the family.
Okay, so
I never had a grandparent. I never had a aunt, uncle, cousin, anything. Everybody was exterminated during the war. As my mother used to say, because she was worried I would get killed. I'll be frank about that. When I attended demonstrations against the war in Vietnam, or later when I got involved in the Israel-Palestine conflict, it was not an easy thing in the 1970s to walk down the street, 6th Avenue, and chant, quote, "Everybody should know we support the PLO." Okay, it was a stupid slogan, by the way, and I regret it. But it was also, you would figure that's going to be a sniper who's going to take you out. And she always used to say, "Norman, remember, we are only 5 people in the world." Because it was my mother, my father, my 2 siblings, and me. And her message was, I don't want to lose another family member. I remember, as an anecdote, Amy Goodman, who you might know is the moderator for Democracy Now! Do you know her?
I don't.
Okay, Democracy Now! Is a very popular public affairs program. Surprised you don't know it.
I just spoke with Richard Wolff before this, and he's very involved in Democracy Now!
Yeah, okay. So, Amy Goodman came to my house and she interviewed my mother because my mother was in the Warsaw Ghetto, as was my father, up until the uprising in April 1943. And Amy, she first asked about my mother's family. What happened? Now, I had never asked my mother or father. Neither did my brothers.
Because you were afraid?
You just knew not to ask the question. Period. So when Amy asked the question, my mother turned her head, went like that, and then said, "Don't ask me." Now, this is a long time later.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps.
And then Amy wanted to turn to an upbeat question because of that dramatic pause. So she said to my mother, "So, tell us what it was like when you were liberated." My mother was liberated by the Russians, my father by the Americans. "Tell me what it was like when you were liberated." And Amy said, as I said, she wanted to put a positive spin at that moment. She said, "It must have been the happiest day of your life." You know what my mother said? "Are you crazy?" It was the most horrible day of my life. And Amy was perplexed, just like you are, and just like everybody here who's actually listening is. And Amy said, "Why?" And she said, "Because it was at that moment that I realized I was all alone in the world." Because from the moment of the ghetto, both my parents were in the concentration camps. My father was in Auschwitz till the end. He was on the Auschwitz death march. My mother was in Majdanek concentration camp, which was apparently for women. It was the worst. I spoke to the greatest historian in Nazi Holocaust, Raoul Hilberg, and he said women didn't survive Majdanek. But then she was transferred to the slave labor camps. And when you're in the camps and the ghetto, your whole mind is focused on surviving. Surviving. I remember when I asked Raoul Hilberg, how did people survive? He said, well, obviously 97%, 98% is luck, right? But then he said the other 2% was the capacity to make quick decisions. Should I go left? Should I go right? Should I go forward or should I go backward? You know, your mind is constantly focused on surviving. And my mother had a very quick mind. I mean, very quick and very funny. She was extremely funny.
Those things go hand in hand.
She studied mathematics at Warsaw University, which is unusual, Jewish woman.
Yeah, but great place for math.
Well, she was among the best. She said I was completely out of my league.
Yeah, the Polish logicians are well known.
She liked the Polish pianists. She didn't like Poles, but she said, piano, they're the best. No question, hands down. In any event, so her whole mind, up until liberation, was surviving. She didn't think about where's my mother, where's my father,
Right.
where's my brother, where are my 2 sisters. She didn't have the luxury to contemplate those possibilities. And then she said, the moment I was freed, it dawned on me. The same thing with my father. I remember during their marriage, which is a terrible marriage, absolutely horrible. I call it a marriage made in hell. They got divorced, and it was a divorce made in heaven. Because even as they divorced, they didn't trust anybody. They didn't trust anybody except they trusted each other, because each knew what the other went through, you know. So in the case of my mother, pictures of the family had survived because she had an aunt who lived in the United States. And so they had sent, her mother had sent to her sister, who was my mother's aunt. Her mother had sent pictures of the family to the aunt who lived in the United States. You understand the relationship? I'm making myself clear? Okay. But my father, nothing survived. Nothing, no picture, no nothing. And my father had a sister, apparently quite beautiful, blonde hair, very pretty. And she was in Meissen concentration camp with my mother. And my mother saw her once in the distance. She said she was wearing white boots, and throughout the marriage, every once in a while, my father would get very stiff, like this, and he would turn to my mother and he'd say, tell me what she looked like. So we were 5 people in the world.